Hello and welcome to Free Kupo Nuts, a weekly podcast where three gamers get together and talk about all sorts of things, but mostly Final Fantasy XIV. My name is Alden, and with me I have my very good friends Nombly and Adara. This week we'll be talking about our Final Fantasy stories and how we got into the series. Now, we do have some topics of discussion, some questions sort of prepared just so that we can stay on topic and kind of keep the conversation going. So the first thing is this question I'll address to Anomaly. What was your first title in the Final Fantasy series, and when was it?
I'd say my first title is, well, when I was a kid, I remember going to a friend's house, and this was like the SNES era, right? So
Oh my god.
we go like we're at his house, and I've never been to this kid's house either. So he's got this game on his TV, and it's got like combat going back and forth. And I'm like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen, right? Like I had an SNES pretty early in its release, but I never really did anything but like Donkey Kong and like Mario. And like I just saw this game and it was awesome. And it was Final Fantasy II, or 6 or 12 or whatever. The whole
I'm pretty sure it wasn't 12.
Yeah, it wasn't 12, but you know what I mean. Like I there's some kind of like, Japanese North America swap out in numbers at some point in the early stages. But it was
definitely
2.
not 12 though.
Yeah, pretty sure it wasn't 12. You know what I mean?
Pretty sure on the SNES.
12 was pretty good though. But yeah, after that, I stayed with the whole like Square before it was Square Enix. Like I played the Super Mario RPG, and that kind of like cemented me in the RPG genre. Was like that, just seeing that game on the TV and going like, holy shit, this game is really awesome.
They just showed up at some random kid's house, like, "Hi, I want to play your SNES."
Oh, we'll talk about something like that later.
Oh my god. Good God. Well, no, I mean, for me, my first introduction into the Final Fantasy series was 7.
Great game.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Nostalgia is super real, and I mean, I'm not. I know there's a lot of stigmata with 7. Like it almost gets so much love that it gets a lot of hate too. That it gets so much love. It's like, and everyone's like, "Where's the love for 8 or 9 or wherever?" And everyone's just like, "Why?" Or 6. 6 needs love. I will admit that. And I will admit it too. Like I am one of those people who loves Final Fantasy VII for the nostalgic reasons, and you can all hate me.
I love 7.
But no, I mean it was cute because I was around maybe 11 or 12, and I know that because I was at a garage sale with my grandmother, for whom I call Mima. I don't know how it caught on, but it did. We're not even Italian. Well, whatever. Okay. And I remember being that old because obviously Final Fantasy VII is rated T for teen, and she thought it wouldn't be age appropriate for me to play. And I was like, I promise, it's fine, it's fine. I don't remember how I convinced her, but she ended up buying it for me, and it was obviously old enough to where it was at a garage sale. So, and it was cute because I remember playing it back then and thinking about how I was as a person back then, where you had, a character like Barrett who he would swear, and it would be physically bleeped out because obviously it was all text, and they would bleep it out with like parentheses, but percent
asterisks,
asterisks,
money signs,
ampersands. No, yeah, that's the word. Yeah, that's it. Whatever. They would physically bleep it out, and little 11, 12-year-old me was so scared I was going to get in trouble for playing this game because it had swear words in it. I ran to my mom like, mommy, this game is swearing, I'm so sorry. Like I was apologizing preemptively, like I'm just gonna nip this in the bud now. And she ended up just looking at me, laughing at me. She's like, it's okay, as long as you know these words are bad and you shouldn't say them. I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I obviously don't have a problem with swearing now, but I mean, it's just shut up. It was just cute to think of, a time where I thought that, I was like that. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, what about you, Adara? What was your first Final Fantasy, game? I guess.
So this is where I come out and lose all of my nerd cred. My first Final Fantasy game was 14.
Oh my god.
Uh, yeah, like I wasn't allowed to have like a gaming console growing up, and so like my first exposure was literally in 2015 to Final Fantasy. Like I knew about the series, and I had friends who played it, but I never really did. And 2015, I wasn't like a teenager. I was 24. So it's not like it was a new game experience for me, but it was something that came like later in my gaming career, if you will, even though my gaming career in quotation marks has been fairly short. So
playing like the pinball game on your PC?
I mean, yes, sure, but I mean, I have other MMO and like PC-based gaming experience.
I mean, that's
that was
just bad parenting. When you,
wow.
I mean, okay, maybe I mean, I can't really. Maybe I really shouldn't.
Backpedal.
We're just gonna backpedal. Cool. So like, I can't really talk to this, obviously, but Nombly, what other titles before 14 have you played? I mean, you talked about 2.
I've played a lot of them.
Okay.
Final Fantasy's kind of been my jam growing up. You know, I'd say like what cemented me into the Final Fantasy franchise, I guess, is
Mhm.
7.
Breaking into other
Definitely
kids' house.
7. Okay, no, I never broke into anybody's house to play Final Fantasy. And so when I was a kid, right, everybody had the SNES, and then 7 came out, and there was the Sony PlayStation 1, and it was like revolutionary, like at least for the kids in my school, my like class. No one was like, oh, N64 Zelda. Everyone was like, Final Fantasy VII, this is the end all be all, this is the game you have to play right now, like this is what you have to do, right? And
Yeah.
I got into 7, and 7 was 7, right? Like 7 was so good. I have so much rose tinted nostalgia for 7.
Because at the time it was groundbreaking.
Yeah, it was like 3D. It had full motion video. It had materia. It was in depth. It was so good.
Well, they've had materia in other Final Fantasy titles, haven't they?
Well, it was like Magicite and stuff like that, but like the materia system in 7 was like so good. Like you could
exclusive to 7.
Well, materia specifically, at least from my recollection. Like I'm probably wrong. Someone will probably say there was materia in other games, but like
I can't remember if there
it was my first experience with that materia system, right? Like the way it worked. And then 7, like a couple years after 8 came out, and it had like 4 discs or something like that, and it was like it was so good. Like it was like, holy, there's all this data on this stuff. I can play this game for hours. And 9 came out, and 9 was 9.
9, man. I mean,
I got no love for 9, unfortunately. And then going to this whole, like, I never broke into a kid's house to play Final Fantasy.
I was kidding. It was a joke. It was a joke.
Yeah. Yeah, like, so around the time that 10 had, like, I think like the greatest hits version had just dropped or something like that. It was on PS2, and I'd just moved up north to start living with my dad. And I met this other kid, and he was also into gaming. And I ended up going to his house one weekend, and I was like, damn, you have a PS2 and you have Final Fantasy X. Like this is my franchise. And he's like, yeah, you want to play it? And I'm like, yeah, I want to play it, right?
Yeah.
So like probably the next 8 to 10 weeks, I was there every weekend, just like jamming on his PlayStation 2. Like I owned nothing in that house. Like I was at his house chilling with him, and he would just watch me play the game, and I'd play it. Sometimes he'd be like, can I play something? But like, no, I'm playing Final Fantasy right now. That kid, like it was his stuff, and I'm just like, I'm playing. I'm sorry.
When I leave, this is yours. Let me have this.
Yeah, it's like you have 5 other days in the week to play this. I only get 2.
He knew the deal. He's like, this is his weekend.
Mm,
This is the Nombly weekend.
yeah. Alden?
Good friend
Oh,
now.
I guess it would be my turn, wouldn't it? No, I don't know. I mean, I've played 7 I played it through and through. It took me forever to beat it, like a couple years at best. I don't know what it was or why I kept falling in and out of it, but I'm not entirely. I genuinely do not remember what it was that like threw me down the Final Fantasy rabbit hole because I was into so many other games at the time. Still now, Sonic. Well, I mean, not so much now Sonic, but Mario games, Pokemon, Zelda games, just things of that nature. I have such a love for those franchises. But for Final Fantasy, I think my second title, and I'm a little embarrassed to say this, was 10-2. I'm almost certain I bought that like at a flea market or some garbage like that. I have no idea. Then of course I backpedaled into Final Fantasy X. I didn't even have a PS2 for the longest time either, by the way, or a PS3. Like I was always late to the game for anything gaming. PS2, PS3, the Wii. I never even bought a Wii U, which I mean, that's not obviously the worst thing in the world to miss out on, especially with the Switch being out. But anyways, no. So I eventually got into Final Fantasy X, which led to 12. And then I guess at some point in my adult life, I managed to actually buy my own PS3 just exclusively for Final Fantasy 13. And I know you people will judge me for it. I mean, 13.2 wasn't even out yet, or I think it was actually about to come out. That's how late I was to buying a PS3. If that isn't like add some clarity to just every time I'm always late to the game. Even for 14, I didn't start playing until the second expansion came out. So, I mean, and obviously Adara, for you haven't played any other Final Fantasy titles, but I mean, having played 14 and the fact that there's so many like references from other games, which you have been made abundantly apparent by quite literally everyone else, like, oh my god, this is from this game, and you're like, I don't understand the reference.
Yeah, it's like, okay, cool, great,
yeah,
all right, let's go
next.
punch a train now.
Right? You're like, I don't care. I mean, since you've played 14, and we live in an age where there's ports, there's phone apps and all this, or phone game apps specifically.
Yeah.
I mean, do you ever see yourself like possibly going back to playing these other Final Fantasy titles since they are like again readily available to us in like this day and age?
I don't know. I mean, maybe it's hard. Like, I'm not very good at being psychic, so I can't just look into a crystal ball and be like, "Yes, future Adara playing 7."
Well, I didn't mean it to that extent. I just meant
but like, I wouldn't rule it out, but it's not something I'm actively seeking.
Okay. Now, Adara, I know you said you got into Final Fantasy XIV and back in 2015. That was during A Realm Reborn, right?
Yep.
All right. Like, how did that even happen? Because obviously you said you had never played a Final Fantasy game before. You were aware of the series. So how did you I don't know. I mean, I mean, as someone who's played Final Fantasy, that was the pull.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, what was it for you?
So, to further reduce my nerd cred, it was a boy. Okay. So. Okay. So to help kind of paint this picture, like when I first like started playing games at all, like I was able to do PC gaming. That was fine. Because my parents could control PC access and then whatever. So my first real exposure to games that weren't like a Hocus Pocus or a math game was RuneScape.
Math Circus.
Yes. So like my first online game was RuneScape, and I played that for a few years. I was like a preteen, and so it was like original RuneScape and all of its like 16-bit garbage glory, and like it ran on Flash, like and I really enjoyed this format of games because it's open-ended in a way. Like, yeah, there is a story, sure. I mean, like RuneScape ostensibly has a story, I suppose, told through quests, much like other MMOs, but I liked the idea that there was a story, but you could also kind of write your own. I was a kid who was picked on a lot, and so games were sort of a way for me to like, particularly things like RuneScape, games and reading were ways that I could kind of write my own story and write out the things I didn't like. So kind of fast forward to 2015, I'd been playing Guild Wars 2, which is another MMO, forever. I think at that point I'd been playing, well, I mean, I guess Guild Wars 2 at that point was only like 2 years old, but I'd played Guild Wars 1 for quite a bit. And so like a bunch of friends of mine played Guild Wars 2, and this guy that I was dating at the time also played Guild Wars 2. That's not why we were dating. We actually lived in the same city and stuff. It's not super weird. But he's like, oh, like I'm super bored, which is valid because at that point I don't even think the first expansion for Guild Wars 2 was out. And he's like, hey, myself and my friend are playing 14. Like, you should try it out. And I was like, sure, because I had also been pretty burnt out on Guild Wars 2, because at this point I was playing it. I was running a guild that I still ran up until about middle of last year. I think I technically am still the guild leader. I just haven't logged in like 6 months. And I was also doing online radio at that point for Guild Wars 2. So I was like, sure, yeah, I'll try it, whatever. And so I tried 14 and it was super fun. And I think I got to level 20 within the first like 3 or 4 days.
Okay.
And this was before Road to 60 was a thing. This was pre-Heaven's Ward. This was like right around the time that they introduced Rogue.
Okay.
Is when I started playing. Because I remember people being excited to do that and then us laughing at the Naruto sort of run that ninjas do.
We're still laughing.
Oh, yeah.
It's still happening.
Yeah. So this guy that I was seeing bought me the game for a birthday present. So I started playing in February of 2015. And then he paid my sub for the first couple of months just to like cover it for me, which was really nice. And so we played a lot. We got married in game. So I was a Lalafell at that point, so 2 little potatoes. And yeah, like it was a really nice game, like a nice, completely different experience from Guild Wars 2. Like I liked the graphics better. I thought the story was really interesting because it was new and different to me versus Guild Wars 2 was like, there are dragons. Dragons bad. Kill the dragon. Oh, the dragon summons zombies, just an FYI. And whereas like the story I felt in 14 was more nuanced. And so I played it quite a bit, and like I got involved in an FC, and I was starting to do coils, like with a raid group. And then this was right before Heaven's Ward came out. He broke up with me out of the blue while I was in the middle of doing Brave Locks.
What?
Yeah, he like started texting me. He like broke up with me for like reasons. It's a whole story unto itself. But yeah, and it's like cool. So I built this experience around this game, around somebody that I cared about a whole lot, and then you basically just like threw me away. Whatever. You didn't think this was going to be a sad story, did you? So like 3 weeks before Heaven's Ward came out, I canceled my pre-order for Heaven's Ward because I was like, I just can't play this game right now, and I stopped playing.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it does kind of suck that does happen. People end up ruining the game for other people in that situation, but I mean, there's nothing you can really do about it.
Yeah, so I guess that begs the question, like, why the heck did I come back, right?
What brought you back after that?
So, I mean, I continued playing Guild Wars 2, and I was getting supremely bored of that again, even though, like, an expansion had come out, and there was another one on the horizon. But at this point, I've put about 2,400 hours into Guild Wars 2, which is over 100 days, or about 100 days. So it's a long time to commit to one game. I had max level of every class, maxed out my crafters. It's getting kind of burnt out on leading a guild. And when I moved to the apartment that I'm in now, one of my really good friends gave me a TV because I don't watch television.
Me neither.
Or movies. Like it's a weird thing I get made fun of about all the time. And so I had this TV, and they're like, oh, I mean, it's a smart TV, so you can give it, like, here's the login for, like, a Netflix account if you want it, but really, there's not a lot you can do with this without cable or whatever. And so one day, just on a whim, I was like, oh, I'm just going to go down to, there's a microplay down the street and see what they had. And they had a PS4 for, like, stupid cheap. And I was like, this seems like a trap, but I bought it anyways. And I was like, man, what games are out for PS4 right now that I would know? And 14 was there, and I was like, I wonder if I still have like a service account and it still works. And it did. And so I came back and I was like, oh, I'll just play this for a bit and still play Guild Wars 2 on Sundays when I have my like guild night. And eventually I stopped logging into Guild Wars 2 on Sundays. I transferred to the server we're on now, Siren, because 2 of my IRL friends wanted to play together. And of course, you can't really play together on different servers without using Party Finder, and it's super convoluted. So we're like, okay, like let's all just transfer to a server. And one of them was on one of the congested servers, so their transfer was free or however that works. And I was like, okay, fine. Like if you're all transferring to Siren, I'll transfer to Siren. So I was on Exodus, left the FC that I had joined because the one I was in was completely dead. I was surprised I didn't get kicked after 2 years of inactivity, but you know.
You were still in the FC after 2. Oh
yeah. So I moved to Siren, and then the people that I moved with to Siren stopped playing.
Yep.
And then and then I got invited one day randomly in the Golden Saucer by Alden, and now I'm here.
Seems to be the pattern. It's like one day I was walking down the road and I got smacked in the face with an invite, and next thing I know I got Stockholm syndrome, and I love it here.
Yeah, I love it here. It's so great. But yeah, so that's kind of how I ended up where I am now.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. That's how you get your friend into a game. You don't give them the choice. I bought it for you. Like, that's how I got Rusty. And we all know what happened there. Like, he's still going. Stronger than...
Sure. So, Nombly, how did you get into 14?
Well, like I said, Final Fantasy has been my jam ever since I was like a kid. Like I grew up, it was my genre. It's what I always did, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, you also played Final Fantasy XI too, though, right?
Yeah, I was just about to get to that.
Sorry.
No.
I beat you to
it. So this continuing on that story from earlier, that friend that I always kept hanging out as friend, like I ended up having some rather severe family problems with my dad when I was in high school. And as a result of it, being such good friends with this friend up north, like I'd also do things like while like, because I was always staying there on the weekends, like I wanted to be useful. So, like I'd do their dishes every once in a while. I'd help mow the lawn. I'd help, pick up the house, shovel snow or whatever. But eventually I ended up moving in there as a result of the problems with my dad. So one time, like I was getting a government allowance type of thing, like a room and board, and we ended up going into another town and like going to like a Best Buy or something like that, and they had this Final Fantasy XI package, right? So me and my friend, having like delved so much into 10, we're like, yeah, Final Fantasy XI, like let's get into this, let's do this, right? And we brought it home, and there was a hard drive in the package. And I'm like,
what?
Yeah, I'm like, I need to install a hard drive to play like this single player game. And we install it, and it's like, you need a credit card to get online. And I'm like, I'm 15. I don't have a credit card.
This thing's trying to steal money from me.
Yeah. And so like this guy's, we're pretty much brothers at this point. So like my brother and I were like begging his mom, like, can we please use your credit card to play this game, and we'll give you the money to pay for it somehow. Like we're 15, we'll figure it out, okay? Like we'll
earn it.
Yeah. We'll do more chores, or like, I'll shovel more driveways in the winter and save up some money. Like we'll make this happen, like please. And we ended up begging for like 2 or 3 days before we finally got it. We're like, we can't even use this game until we can pay for the subscription. So, we start installing it, and the way 11 is built, it's like a peer-to-peer package thing when installing. So it's really, really slow. So like 14 hours later, we finally get the game going. And I ended up just playing it for about 12 years.
Just casual.
Just super casual, 12 years, just kind of.
Yeah, this is a super casual 12-year subscription to Final Fantasy XI.
Yeah, totally casual.
You put one developer's kid through college, you know that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Just one? More like...
Anyways, I played that game like all the time. And, I played 12 when it came out. I played 13. And then 14 came out and they're like, okay, we're doing 11 but better, right? And then the original like 14 1.0 came out and all my friends were like, oh, we're going to go play 14, like all my FF11 friends. And I'm like, this game looks awful. Why are you doing this? Right? And they were all back 2 months later, of course. They were back to 11 2 months later because 14 was very not good on release.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're all familiar with the story.
So I just kept playing 11, and then a friend of mine, like I'd moved back to the city at this point, but I still kept ties with all my friends up north. And my friend Cameron, he was like, they're re-releasing 14. Like, do you want to play? And I'm like, it was terrible the first time. Why would it be any better this time, right? He's like, just come and play. I had gotten into the beta or something like that, or like the pre-release. They gave you like 10 days pre-release if you pre-ordered or something, like a head start thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up playing it, and it got its hooks into me, and I just played it and played it and played it for probably about a month straight. Like I don't think I even logged into 11. I guess I should probably say, like, playing 11 for 12 years, there were like smatterings of like moving between 11 and World of Warcraft like every 8 months or so.
Mm-hmm.
So I have like all this MMO experience, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna play 14. I'm gonna try this. And my other friends, they immediately, a month later they're gone, type of thing. I'm the only person in the game now in 14. And I'm kind of like, this isn't fun. Just sitting on my carpenter and fucking Gridania.
Yeah.
Like, housing districts weren't even out yet. Like, I think the Chimera trial had just come out for the original weapons.
Yeah.
And I'm playing Bard full time. And there was still server problems and server lag. And this one night, I joined this group to do Chimera to try and get my weapon done, my bow, and I kind of got cussed out because I couldn't interrupt all these like Chimera moves, and everyone died repeatedly. And I was just like, okay, I think I'm done with this game for now. And then October of 2016, another friend of mine was like, I'm playing 14 now. And I'm like, that game seems kind of cool. And I think it was like patch 3.4 or something. And I started playing, and I was going to go to their server, but they're on Balmung. So I can't exactly create a character and go to Balmung. And at the time, I had also just lost a job that I'd been working for a while. So I didn't really have the money to pay for a server transfer and a subscription.
Mm-hmm.
So another friend of mine from 11 was also playing 14. So I was originally on Goblin server, and I transferred to Siren as to play with them, and then a month later they were gone too. So
that seems to be the stigma for a lot of people who are like, even on Reddit. I don't know. I see people always complaining about that. There was literally one person who complained, like just last week I read, saying that they bought the game, they loaded it up, and before they even started playing, their friends ditched them, and they were demanding a refund. Like, I'm like, dude, you bought it. Like, good luck. Whatever. I don't know. I mean, it kind of sounds like, at least with both of you, that there was a time where you kind of just dropped off the game for any understandable number of reasons, as we all do from time to time. And I can't really, I know there's been a time that I've been pulled away from this game, not because I was bored or because I had nothing to do, but probably because I was just so into another game, which rarely happens. Like, it almost takes me so much amount of effort to try to like play something else. The remake for 12 came out. Tried playing that. I got through it, but I was like back to 14. Borderlands 2 back to 14, the new Pokemon game back to 14. Like I don't know. I haven't even finished so many of these games because of 14. Okay, I finished Persona 5, but that's another story. But I mean, I guess the real question is like, I guess for Adara, what is like the main reason that keeps you around? Like you're from the day to day at this point. At this point in 14, what's today's date? May 2018.
Yeah.
We are nearing patch 4.3. Yeah. I'm like, where are we now? I don't remember. I know the new live letter is coming out next week.
Yeah.
5 days.
5 days. So yeah, what for you? For you at this point in time, what is it that keeps you playing? What is the attraction?
I mean, MMOs, as I kind of alluded to earlier, are a thing that I've always been drawn to and always enjoy doing for fun, as evidenced by the fact that I have 100 days playtime in Guild Wars 2, about 900 hours in Guild Wars 1, which I guess is a CORPG and not an MMO, but same difference. I don't know how many hours I have in RuneScape, but like I played that for years. Like part of it is a community thing. I have friends that I play with, and this is kind of how I interact with those people, which if you don't play video games, you don't really get. I sometimes try to explain this to people at work, and they're like, why are you going home to hang out with people in a video game? And I'm like, but it's maps night. I have to. Like it's like, yes, Adara, but it's Friday. I know, I get it. A lot of it is like I still have a lot in this game I could do. I don't do crafting right now or gathering really. I have a bunch of combat classes that I could still level. Like there's still so much to do. There's so many side quests I haven't done. And like as somebody who's I don't even think I can say semi end game at this point because I have been working on the current raid tier. So as somebody who's doing like end game raiding, like there's still plenty for me to do, even if it seems like I do the same stuff every day. It's more the community than anything. Like I like to come home and hang out with the friends I've made on the internet.
I know it sounds as weird as it does, but I mean, at least for me, and that's definitely the biggest pull. My my boyfriend at the time. Oh, did I ever explain how I got into 14? Oh, well,
No, you didn't.
You completely skipped over it. I'm like, Alden, come on.
What about me? Yeah, no.
Yeah, like how does we'll get back to that. So why do you keep playing?
Well, I mean, I guess it kind of ties to how I did get into it.
Okay.
Fan of 14, duh. My boyfriend at the time, now husband, or obviously my fiance, whatever. The point is that someone else got me into this game. I played on their account. I wanted my own because I wanted my own character, and it just kind of sped out of control from there. I have prior MMO experience. I'm not really happy or not happy, I guess the word would be. Willing, proud to admit this, but my first MMO experience is MapleStory. Yeah, and we're not going to get into that.
I never got into that, but I knew people who did.
We're not going to get into that at all.
Yeah?
At
Okay.
all. I mean, that is how I met Rusty, so there is some good that came from that, but it was definitely a money sink. But
you met Rusty in MapleStory? I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's how we met.
Huh.
And the rest is history. But anyways, no. Yeah, like I got into it from like he introduced me to the game. Yeah, I almost immediately surpassed him to the point where he I think he just did it to annoy me, or he did it intentionally. As a black mage, a low-level black mage, below level 50, he would tell me that he would use Fire 3 and Blizzard 3 back and forth because he would never lose any mana. He also thought that after level 30, there were no more class quests, which technically he was right.
Technically right. Yeah.
But,
oh my god.
He was like level 45 in the MSQ.
That's kind of correct.
He was level 45 in the main story, and I'm just like, have you done any of your job quests? He's like, my what? I'm like, oh my god. Like, but for him, he lost interest in the game because it's like the game's boring, blah blah blah. I'm like, well, you're not really talking to anyone. You're playing an MMO, but you're not really dealing with the MMO aspect of the RPG. Like he was just playing the game for the story, for the the play, just all this other stuff. He wasn't playing it for the people. But that's what the real draw is for 14. It really is. And then that's what's kept me around for as long as I have. Even in the early years, I knew that I wanted to be an FC leader. Like that was a goal of mine. For sure, just playing through, and I eventually got to that point where Rusty and another friend of mine, Lorelai, we all formed SectionEight. Obviously, Lorelai's no longer with us because neither of you know her. She's before your time. She went off to
never met her.
She went off to do her own great and amazing and wonderful things. We still talk, so we're still not like totally out of touch. Well, point is that yeah, like it's the social aspect, and I mean, like I said, I've met Rusty through MapleStory, and I consider him to be one of my greatest friends, honestly. And I have never met the man, not once. He considered me to be like such good a friend that he wanted me to be like the best man at his wedding.
Oh.
Yeah,
Aw.
like, and people don't think that the experiences and the encounters you have on the internet matter, but they do.
They
Like these are
absolutely
actual
do.
people. I mean, mind you,
Yeah.
of course, like people are only gonna know what you let them know. Mind you,
Yeah.
some real stuff might slip out every now and again, but everything is so scripted and filtered and walled that they're not gonna know you unless you want them to know you, sort of thing. So
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like you can be a little bit more open, I think, in this medium rather than in real life, because like, you know, if someone, you know, it doesn't have a lot of self-confidence, or, you know, they feel like they're not good looking, or they feel like they're not very good socially, this is a medium where you can absolutely just be someone else while you're online.
Yeah.
right, and all the nuances and everything that goes along with that, we can definitely get into. But that is obviously a topic that is best saved for another day.
Yeah.
That pretty much runs out of the material that we had prepared. Did either of you have anything else to really add about the topic in regards to, I guess your Final Fantasy stories and what it
I
means to
mean,
you, or whatever?
I never spoke about why I stay, but okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Nah, it's all good.
Yeah, no, why do you stay?
Yeah, why do you
Why I
stay?
stay? I mean, a certain almost 10-digit bank account in the game is a pretty
Oh my
pretty
god.
big keep me around factor.
Oh my lord.
And yes, ladies, he is single for you to dig his gold.
No, but I definitely stay for the economy factor. I love the market board. I love crafting. I love gathering. And just the goal of keeping making that number higher.
Steadily go higher. As
It's
bit by bit,
fun.
you're like,
It's fun to me. Like if it hadn't been for Kiki inviting me to raid this tier, I probably wouldn't be raiding aside from normals. I'd just still be grinding Gil.
mm-hmm.
But just building on what Adara said, like, yeah, the community, the FC, and the people in it are why I stick around. Like, my FC before this one had 30 people in it, and you'd maybe have 3 to 4 people on during prime time. And this is when Stormblood just came out. So this is when you should be recruiting. It's like when an expansion just came out, and nothing was happening. And I had 2 good friends in my old FC, Paul and Mela. You know them.
Yeah.
They're currently on break from the game, but I really hope they come back.
Shout out to Paul and Mela, apparently.
I really hope they come back. But they left the old FC because
Mhm.
of inactivity from the leadership and just some general problems. And when they left, I was like, I have no reason to be here anymore. So I left that old FC. And like the first goal right away after I left was like, I'm gonna take a little break, and I'm going to find the largest FC I can find.
Oh my god.
I want to talk to people. And I was just sitting in front of like the turn-in person in Kugane, and somebody from S8 just like walked past me, and I checked them, and there's like, oh, there's 480 people in this FC. I'm pretty sure I might find at least one person to talk to in there.
Aw.
At least
But yeah,
one.
at least one, yeah. But that's why I stick around, yeah. People to talk to, things to do. But
I always
please,
find it
strict
fascinating.
recommendations.
I always find it fascinating hearing your guys' stories of how I recruited you to the guild.
You didn't recruit me.
I know, but that's I mean, and I mean not necessarily how you were recruited, just like how you guys came to be, how you guys joined. And more often than not, it's usually I harassed the ever living shit out of you until you were like, "Fine, I'll join." God, but it's just, I mean, that was a goal I had in mind, to just have a big FC, and I don't really ever consciously. Someone asked me, "It's like, why the big FC?" I was like, I have no idea. I genuinely do not know why I wanted the large FC. I just know that I wanted it. I went for it, and I have it. We have it. We have one of the largest FCs in Siren, for sure.
I'm pretty sure we have the largest.
I mean, it's really hard to kind of like compare, but
I mean, activeness versus membership is always a thing too.
yeah, exactly. So, and activeness in what regard? Activeness in the Discord, activeness in FC chat, activeness just helping each other out, or just activeness doing things in the game. It's like I said, it's very hard to gauge compared to other people, but which is why I think it's just easier and less hurtful to just say one of the largest, because other FCs might be more active and larger in other areas than we are. So is there any other topics of discussion that I am not glossing over in a negligent manner?
No, I feel like it's been good.
Yeah.
Just reminiscing about how we got in, and setting a baseline. People know a bit of our story now.
Yeah, and that was of course the idea.
Yeah, I think that about does it for today.
I have nothing else to add here. Nombly, are you good?
Yeah, I'm right as rain.
Right as rain?
Perfect.
Is that one of your rich people speak that I'm unfamiliar with?
No.
It's a turn of phrase. Go look it up. Read a book.
Read a book? What are those? I've never heard of that thing in my life.
I never learned to read. Alden, probably.
I don't have to read.
Oh, okay.
All right, well, I suppose that just about wraps it up for this week's show. If you liked this podcast and want to hear more, please subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can get notified when we do post a new episode. If there's anything you would like us to talk about, please leave a comment in the comment section below, and I guess we will see you later. Until next time.